Have you ever wondered why we jump on board with some new technologies but just ignore others? It's a huge question, right? From the very first smartphone to the latest AI. Well, today, we're going to crack open one specific case: internet banking. Let's find out what really makes us decide to log on or just log off for good. I mean, think about it. You've probably got that one friend who does everything on their banking app, and maybe a family member who still loves going into the actual bank branch. So what's the deal? What's the real difference between them? It turns out the answer is way more interesting than you think.
Of course, sometimes the world kind of makes these decisions for us. The pandemic was a massive shove in the digital direction, pushing almost all of us online for, well, everything. And this huge sudden shift gave researchers a perfect, real-world laboratory to see what drives our choices when we don't really have a choice.
To find some solid answers, we're going to zoom in on this really fascinating study from Malaysia. See, researchers there noticed something odd, a real head-scratcher, about who was using online banking, and, more importantly, who wasn't.
And this is the number that started it all: 50%. Even with pretty much everyone having internet access and modern banks, only half the people were actually using online banking. Compared to other similar countries, that number just felt off. So the big question became, what was holding back that other 50%?
Now, to solve a puzzle like this, you can't just guess. These researchers brought out the big guns, seriously proven frameworks for understanding why people do what they do. You can think of it like a detective showing up to a crime scene with a full forensics kit, ready to look at every single angle.
And this is basically their investigation board. I know, it looks like a super complicated flowchart of the human brain, but don't worry, we're not going to get lost in the weeds. We're just going to pull out the most important pieces, because every little box and arrow here is a clue.
Okay, first clue. It's called performance expectation. It's a fancy term for a super simple question we all ask ourselves. Is this thing actually going to help me? Will this app make paying my bills any faster? Is it going to make my life easier? Bottom line, is it useful?
All right, next up, facilitating conditions. This is all the practical stuff, the nitty-gritty. Do I even have what I need to use this? We're talking about a decent smartphone, a reliable internet connection, and just enough know-how to tap through the app without wanting to throw your phone across the room.
And finally, there's the quality of the whole experience, which they broke down into 3 parts. Is the info you're seeing on the screen correct? Does the app itself actually work without crashing all the time? And hey, if something does go wrong, is there a human being you can call for help? Basically, is the product any good? Okay, so with all their tools laid out, the real investigation could begin. And the first big mystery they had to solve was this: what makes someone even want to try something new, like online banking, in the first place? What gets them over that initial hump? And here's what the evidence told them. Now, a few of these are pretty much what you'd expect. Price value. Was it worth it? Huge factor. Performance expectancy. Was it useful? Yep, another big one. Facilitating conditions. Was it easy to use? That mattered too. But just look at that last one. That's where things got really unexpected.
This was the big twist. Pretty much everyone, the researchers included, just assumed that the fear factor, what they call perceived risk, was going to be a huge deal. The fear of being hacked, of fraud, of making a mistake that costs you money. But the data said, nope. In this particular study, fear just wasn't the main thing stopping people.
So if fear wasn't the bad guy, then what was? Well, this quote from the study just nails it. It all came down to a simple trade-off. We're all constantly doing this little mental math in our heads. Are the benefits, like saving time, worth the costs, like data fees? If the good stuff outweighs the bad, we're in. So getting someone to download the app is one thing, but getting them to keep using it, that's a whole different puzzle. This is the second half of the mystery. What makes people stick around and become loyal users?
And the answer brings us right back to those 3 quality checks we mentioned earlier. The results were crystal clear. You need all 3 to keep people happy. It's like a 3-legged stool. You need accurate info, a smooth app, and good customer service. If any one of those legs is wobbly, the whole experience falls apart.
And this is where it all comes together in this really cool feedback loop. See, when those 3 quality pillars are strong, people are satisfied. And that satisfaction doesn't just feel good. It actually reinforces their decision, making them want to use the service again and again until it becomes a habit. A great experience doesn't just win you a user. It creates a fan.
Okay, so we've cracked the case for online banking in Malaysia.
But why should this matter to the rest of us? Well, because these clues about human behavior, they're pretty much universal. The lessons here apply to almost any new tech, anywhere in the world.
So if we boil it all down, this study basically gives us a playbook for launching anything new. Number 1, make the value obvious. 2, make sure it's actually useful and makes life easier. 3, the entire experience, from the app itself to the customer support, has to be excellent. And last, and maybe most important, don't just assume you know what's holding people back. The real reason might be a lot simpler than you think.
And that brings us to the final question, and this one's all about you. We just learned that what seems like the most obvious barrier, fear, wasn't the real deal breaker. So think about the last time you tried a new app or a new service and just gave up on it. What was it? Was it too clunky, too expensive? Was it something else? Figuring out your own personal deal breaker, well, that's your piece of the puzzle.